Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's Assumption of Responsibility, where Colonel Anthony Barbina will transfer assumption of command of the New England Recruiting Battalion to Major Patrick Moriarty. We would like to recognize some special guests in attendance. We are especially honored to have with us today Colonel Dante, Commander, 1st Recruiting Brigade. Mr. Brian Concannon, Civilian Aide to the Secretary of the Army for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Mr. Peter Burdett, the Civilian Aide to the Secretary of the Army for the State of New Hampshire. Mr. Greg D'Arbonne, Colonel Edward Cross Chapter President, the Association of the United States Army. Ms. Barbara Pinnell, the Civilian Aide to the Secretary of the Army for the State of Maine. Command Sergeant Major David Porter, Command Sergeant Major, 1st Recruiting Brigade. Thank you. Woo-hoo. Thank you for joining us. At this time, please direct your attention to the soldiers of the New England Recruiting Battalion assembled in front of you. The New England is one of 8 battalions that make up the United States Army 1st Recruiting Brigade, encompassing 13 states, the District of Columbia, and headquartered at Fort Meade, Maryland. The New England Recruiting Battalion oversees the recruiting mission of 28 recruiting centers. The battalion is divided into 6 companies. These are Maine, New Hampshire, Boston, North Shore, Rhode Island, and South Shore. It covers the states of Maine, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and east coast of Massachusetts. From your left to right are the company commanders and first sergeants of the New England recruiting companies, along with their station commanders. These are Maine Company, commanded by Captain Jamar Meadows and First Sergeant Zachary Derrick. New Hampshire Company, commanded by Captain Matthew Leach and First Sergeant Lisa Belair. Boston Company, commanded by Captain Colin Clark and First Sergeant Christopher Whitaker. North Shore Company, commanded by Captain Kerry Haig and First Sergeant Jeffrey Thompson. Rhode Island Company, commanded by Captain Travis Prendergrass and First Sergeant Jesus Feliciano. South Shore Company, commanded by Captain Charlton Cornell and First Sergeant Arnaldo Chico. In the center of the formation is the Commander of Troops, Captain Derek Bisson, Command Sergeant Major Nicholas Frazio, and the New England Recruiting Battalion Color Guard. Presiding over the assumption of responsibility is Colonel Dente, Commander of the United States Army 1st Recruiting Brigade. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party and invocation given by Andrew Shriver. At this time, I would like the chaplain to give the invocation.
Let us pray. O God in heaven, we thank you for the leadership of Colonel Barbina, and may you bless him and his wife Summer and their children as you lead them to Fort Hood now. As Major Moriarty accepts the challenge of commander, give him intuition and understanding as he and his wife Shamim and their children continue their tenure here. Now bless the New England Recruiting Battalion, 1st Recruiting Brigade, and the United States of America. Amen.
a bouquet of yellow roses. The roses symbolize a new beginning and welcome her arrival as the battalion's senior family representative. A single rose is being presented to his daughters and sons, Gila, Mina, Danya, and Riza. I got it right, I hope. Thank you. Okay, this we got. At this time, Colonel Dente, Colonel Barbina, Major Moriarty, and Command Sergeant Major Frazio will move to the front of the colors to conduct the change of command ceremony. The change of command ceremony is a unique and time-honored military tradition that is rich with symbolism and heritage dating back to medieval times. It symbolizes the transfer of responsibility, authority, and accountability of that unit, its mission, and personnel from one leader to another. Soldiers often carried staffs or standards into battle that identified them as a unit. Throughout military history, unit colors have marked the position of the commander on the battlefield and served as a rallying point. While attacking or rallying on the battlefield, soldiers would follow the standard or guidons of their leader, most often found at the forward edge of the battle. In more recent times, the colors represented not only the heritage and history of the unit, but also the unity, loyalty of its soldiers. The colors are the commander's symbol of authority, representing his responsibility to the organization. Wherever the commander is, there are also the colors. Command Sergeant Major Frazio is the keeper of the colors. As a senior enlisted soldier in the unit, he is a spokesman for both the loyalty and concerns of the soldiers and the principal advisor to the commander. The transfer of the battalion colors today is significant in two ways. First, the history, traditions, and accomplishments of the New England Recruiting Battalion are embodied in its colors. With the transfer, the unit's legacy is passed as a building block for the future performance and achievements. Second, the colors are traditionally at the forefront of the formation and signify that with the continuity of the transfer of the colors also goes the transfer of responsibility for accomplishment of the mission and for the welfare of the soldier. The passing of the colors from the Command Sergeant Major to the outgoing commander signifies the last act of allegiance to that commander. Colonel Barbina has upheld these responsibilities for the past 2 years. He will now relinquish them to Major Moriarty. The passing of the colors from the outgoing commander to the senior tactical commander signifies that the unit is never without officer leadership. The passing of the colors from the senior tactical commander to the incoming commander, Major Moriarty, signifies the passing of his trust and also the responsibility for the unit and its soldiers. Under the provisions of Army Regulation 600-20, paragraph 2-5, the undersigned assumes assumption of command the New England Recruiting Battalion, 1st Recruiting Brigade, effective 14th of May 2021. Signed, Patrick M. Moriarty, Major, Logistics, Commanding. The passing of the colors from the incoming commander to the Command Sergeant Major signifies the confidence that the commander places in the non-commissioned officer corps and is the Command Sergeant Major's first act of allegiance to his new commander. Ladies and gentlemen, the commander of the 1st Recruiting Brigade, Colonel Dente.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Colonel Fred Dente, and I'm thrilled to be here representing more than 2,000 soldiers and civilians of the 1st Recruiting Brigade. Because I'm the first guy, I also get the honor of recognizing some of our distinguished guests, including Mr. Brian Kincannon, Ms. Brenda Pinnell, and Mr. Peter Burnett, each of whom is a civilian advisor to the Secretary of the Army. I'd also like to recognize Mr. Greg Dobone and Colonel Retired Kerrigan. Your partnership and commitment to this unit directly contributes to the success that these soldiers on the field have had over the previous 2 years. And I just want to publicly thank each one of you for the hard work that you do for our Army and for this unit. I'd also like to just briefly mention the family members. Everybody always mentions our spouses, which they should, but I'm at a point in my life where I start to recognize parents are pretty important too. So I want to thank the moms and dads who've traveled from across the country to be here today and to support their sons. I know when you look at them, you still look at you see the 3-year-old, but they're good men. You've raised good men, and I thank you for that. Okay, so it's worth taking just a moment right now to recognize up front that we're standing in a very special place. This is the birthplace of the American fighting spirit. The first time Americans took up arms to defend the nation's ideals was just in this area. It was right near us, which makes it pretty exceptional to understand that for a long time the Army had given up on New England. For a long time the Army recognized that we just couldn't get into this market, and we told ourselves this false narrative of, oh, it's a Navy town. I mean, look at them, they're right there, they look good. We told ourselves that the population here is too educated or underqualified or had low propensity, or whatever the narrative was required to justify a battalion which routinely would finish in the middle to the bottom of USAREC. That's the environment that Colonel Anthony Barbina walked into just about 2 years ago. And if you know anything about Colonel Anthony Barbina, it's that those false narratives were not going to stand on his watch. Anthony is a force of nature. He is a force of nature, unstoppable force of nature. He has an infectious optimism that makes every unit he commands better. And he is a relentless innovator. I have copied more of Anthony's ideas in the last 10 months than he probably cares to know. But he is relentlessly innovative. He has the mind of an engineer, obviously, because of his professional upbringing, coupled with the bias for action of a professional Army officer. He attacked and destroyed those false narratives in 3 steps. First, in the hearts of his soldiers, who he convinced that they could win. He taught them how to win. Second, he attacked those false narratives in this community. With great partners like the ones I just mentioned, he built an outreach and partnership program that is the envy of every battalion in this command. And finally, he defeated those false narratives in real life, turning a battalion which rarely was in the top half into a battalion which is regularly in the top half. It's worth noting that last phase line April, this battalion finished number 2 in USAREC, an achievement which would have been unthinkable 2 or 3 years ago. And while that's a laudable achievement for you and for the soldiers and the team that you built, I think that this phase line is even a better example of your legacy. Because this phase line, as the men and women on the field know, this battalion had a slow start. Started in the bottom 10. And a less resilient team would have folded it up right then. Said, we can't make it this time. But that's not the team that Anthony Barbina built. This team had the tenacity and grit to fight their way back. Anthony, I can't think of anything else to say to describe your legacy here than that you built a team that was able to do that. Okay, I already mentioned the strength of every soldier is in their family, and once again, that's true to form here. I just want to say, I don't know, Summer, if you've thought about it this way, but it's rare for a lieutenant colonel or a colonel to go from one command to another. Very rare. And I can tell you from personal experience, it's not easy. Now, what you're about to do, to go 3 commands in a row, back to back, I think that might be a record. That might be a record in the Army. I can't think of anybody who's ever done that. If I had to pick a family that had the resiliency and the grit to do it, it would be the Barbina family. And I know that's a tribute to your leadership of that family. So thank you, Summer, for everything you've done. All right. Now, yeah, thank you. Thanks. Now, for the new guy, one of the things that always shocks me, and I'm not new to doing these kinds of ceremonies, but one of the things that always shocks me is the depth of our bench. The strength of our Army is that there's always another officer or senior NCO that's ready, willing, and able to take on the burden of command. It's exceptional. It's one of the things that makes our Army unique in the world. And this time, again, we have an officer here that is ready, willing, and able to take up this burden. We're doubly fortunate this time because Major Patrick Moriarty is already a son of the Patriot Battalion. He's already cut his teeth in this difficult mission, and I have no doubt that he is not going to be a caretaker commander. He is going to move this battalion forward, and he is going to hand it off better than he received it. So I will end where I began. We are standing on hallowed ground. This is the birthplace of the American fighting spirit. I can think of no other leaders and no better soldiers to carry on the legacy that we've been handed. Patriots, for victory, put them in boots.
Ladies and gentlemen, the outgoing commander of the New England Recruiting Battalion, Colonel Anthony Barbina.
Hey, thanks. Got my family clapping for me. It's pretty special. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, friends, family, fellow patriots, for joining us today at the beautiful Portsmouth, New Hampshire area, the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard right to our rear here for this Assumption of Command ceremony. We've also got a lot of other people who are going to be tuning in online. Just want to say thanks to everybody that is watching online. We have some celebrated guests today. We have Casa Pennells from Maine. We have Casa Burdett from New Hampshire. We have Casa Concannon from Massachusetts. We have Mr. D'Arbone from AUSA. We've got a bunch of great friends, including Hunt Kerrigan, here with us today. Got one of my War College classmates, out here as well. There's just a lot of special people in the audience with us. And we appreciate your support in today's ceremony. And we appreciate everybody watching us. So thank you, Colonel Dente, for those kind words. Definitely appreciate it. Thank you for the award ceremony. And I thank you for all the mentorship, because over the last few months, he's been talking to me a lot about being a future brigade commander. So I really appreciate those words, and I appreciate those times that you've helped me get ready to go to 36th Engineer Brigade. I also appreciate General Muth and General Vereen having the faith for me to come here and take this second-time battalion command as this pilot program of commands, in New England. This is going to be a place where they invest folks into it, and they're going to continue to hope to win New England, win Boston, and Providence. So here I stand today with you. New England Recruiting Battalion has been 2 amazing years. I tell you, I got here in June of 2018 with nothing but a bunch of reputation about things in this battalion. We had a thing called a Vision Quest in July 2019. We were number 38 out of 38 in USAREC. We had been like that for about a year to 2 years. And we were trying to figure out how we get back. And we said to ourselves that day, we're going to be in the top 10 of USAREC in the next 2 years. We're going to win Boston. We're going to find ways to do it. And we stand here today with you, number 5 in USAREC. We stand here with these folks out here standing in front of you, having reached number 2, as Colonel Dente had mentioned, during one of our months. And we've reached out to Boston. We've actually done a lot to win Boston in this area. And you know what? You don't do that without 3 things. And the 3 things I'm going to talk about today are people, passion, and also processes. So first off, as Colonel Dente mentioned, this is a people business. The Army is a people business. There's a reason why we say our number 1 priority is people. It's because you can't succeed without the right people. In recruiting, you can't do that and get the right people without the right people. The most important people that you have in our unit, in this recruiting battalion, are not on this field today. They are the recruiting non-commissioned officers. They are the fantastic soldiers that come from across our Army and come here to New England and they recruit for us on a daily basis. And I'll tell you what I've learned to appreciate about the people in this battalion over the last 2 years is theirs is a thankless job. They are subject to ridicule, resentment, and rejection on a daily basis. They go out there and they deal with tons of paperwork. It takes a boatload of paperwork to put each person in the Army. And they wade through that sea of paperwork, those issues, and they deal with these petulant young men and women who want a lot of things. They want money, they want all kinds of opportunity, some of which they may not be able to be qualified for. But our recruiting NCOs, they make it happen every single day. You've got recruiting NCOs, like out of Littleton, New Hampshire, Sergeant Clemens, who saved the life of a trucker who had had an accident. He puts his belt on his leg and does a tourniquet. You have Sergeant Zamovich, who was saved by the United States Army when he was in Bosnia and has come to the United States and joined the United States Army and tells his story in our local Massachusetts news all the time. You have people like Staff Sergeant Fernandez, who's the #1 recruiter in our battalion and the top 5 of the brigade, and hustles down in Rhode Island and southeastern Massachusetts, gets after it every day. They are the people that drive this unit. The good thing you have here today is you have the center of gravity of our battalion are the station commanders standing in the formation. So a station commander is a trained and certified 79 Romeo. A recruiting NCO has dedicated their career towards training and mentoring and putting people in the all-volunteer force. We've got top-notch station commanders like Sergeant Baez, Sergeant Good, Sergeant Artiaga, Robbins, and Tapia, who have led the way for this battalion and taught our NCOs how to recruit. Needless to say, everything in this battalion happens because of those station commanders. Everything that they do takes long hours, hard work, and is amazing as they're putting New Englanders in the Army. On the NCO side, we have our first sergeants who are also standing in this formation. They are the backbone of this unit. They drive the unit. We have our sergeants major. We've had several sergeants major in our battalion. Sergeant Major Hernandez, Sergeant Major Garcia. Master Sergeant Merrill acted as our command sergeant major for a period of time. Sergeant Major Brandt was our sergeant major for a period of time. And in November, we were blessed as a battalion to have Sergeant Major Frajo, who's back here in the back of our formation right now. He and Michelle came to this battalion, and they're going to take the people of this battalion to the next level. I've been so fortunate to have the Frajo family working with you guys for the last 8-9 months, and this battalion is in great hands with you two at the head and helping Major Moriarty take this unit to the next level. We've got officers, civilians, and a variety of other folks, XOs who are here today. Thanks to XOs for coming out, the admin alongside the house. We've got company commanders. We've got Sinclair, Moats, Carmichael, McIntosh, Baker, who's here today. Thanks, Starla Baker, for coming out. Meadows, Haig, Leach, Clark. We've got Prendergrass and Cornell out here in front of you in the formation. They lead the formations every single day. We can't do anything we do without the people, those sitting in the stands. The CASAs are an important part of our battalion formation. The civilian leaders, like Senator Shaheen, Governor Baker, Mayor Walsh, who's now been taken up to the national level as a leader, the Kraft family, and others who help us do our job. For me personally, when it comes to people, though, the group right here to my right is a very important part of my life. My mom and dad have come here today from South Carolina, made the surprise trip up to help show off this wonderful formation. My wife, my greatest teammate, helping out with our families, she's just totally amazing. Vivian and Cameron, my 2 kids, they have moved a lot. They have been amazing. They've been great supporters for me, for the family, and they've really taken after this Patriot Battalion and love them. And then my Maine family. Who would have thought I'd be stationed in Maine? Paul actually mentioned it to me, like, you're coming to Maine? And we're like, yeah, we're coming to Maine, no kidding. And we've been able to be here. We've developed a special relationship with Paul and Nancy, Josh and Amy and their kids, Cole and Ellie. Wow, couldn't have had it better off. Ellie, it's been great getting to know you over these last 2 years. Thank you guys so much. Okay, that finishes up the first of 3 sections, people. People's the most important. I swear that's the longest, and I'm going to get this over the XO. The second thing I'm going to talk about is processes, okay? People form the foundation of this unit, but recruiting, more than any other unit I've been to in my Army career, is all about processes. First off, processes of administrative and logistics. You got to care for soldiers. You got to care for the people for a unit to work at its best. And I think the battalion staff that you see here today, standing in the trees underneath the bin back here, they do a lot of administrative and logistics stuff for these soldiers you see in front of you and the recruiting NCOs that I mentioned that goes unnoticed and underappreciated. But the people cannot be successful unless they have a staff, unless they have support personnel who are out there implementing processes and helping them be effective every single day. Whether it be repairing furniture, painting stations, whether it be getting the government vehicles fixed, whether it be getting money in their hands, building new stations, you name it, the battalion staff has been absolutely amazing. Within the process, it's also important to mention that we've been in the middle of a pandemic. I don't know if anybody noticed that, but recruiting in the middle of a COVID-19 pandemic has been a hot mess. It's been interesting, and it took processes for safety, it took processes for vaccinations, it took a lot of processes for us to figure out how to recruit in the middle of a pandemic and keep these men and women here safe, and that has been a high adventure. The team has come a long ways because they've implemented processes in recruiting, prospecting, processing, management of future soldiers, advertising, connection with our civilians, and doing things to help our recruiting NCOs reach their full potential. The last thing a battalion needs to be successful is passion. Okay? The key to our battalion's success, has been working in a complex market and doing you have to have the will and the skill. These guys have the skill, but the key was we need to have the will. And I think this is a pretty important poster. And I want to bring this up. This is the World War I poster, a recruiting poster, that was Montgomery flags. And I think this, more than any other thing that I've seen during my time in command, it shows the passion that you need to be successful, to support our Army, to connect with the community, and to make the mission happen. So the poster shows what a recruiting battalion NCO in the New England Recruiting Battalion is. They're amazing people, NCOs, officers, and civilians. They change the mentality, the attitude, and the focus, and they are going to get after it. We want you, New Englanders, to join the United States Army. We want you, New England Battalion recruiting NCOs, to have the passion to go out there and show them what it's like to be a member of the greatest army on the face of this earth, in the greatest nation that this world has ever seen. And this just shows a few things, like when a recruiting NCO is down and they're being told no for the 20th time that day, hey, keep getting after it. Keep working hard. Do what you got to do to put people in the United States Army. And I thought this was just a neat little poster that I've had sitting on my desk that shows the passion that's necessary to be successful amongst turmoil and in areas where no one thinks you can be successful. So we want you to join the United States Army here today. And it's great. I'm going to wrap up my speech saying, hey, Patrick, you've been an amazing XO, and I can't think of anybody else that I'd want to turn the battalion over. Our incoming battalion commander, she'll be here from Korea in about 3 months after she completes the posture testimony with Congress and with General Abrams. So Patrick is going to command this battalion for about 3 months, and he's going to continue taking the new levels. He's going to excel as a battalion commander. Just remember, people, processes, and passion. Keep those 3 things going. Sergeant Major Frazier has your back. He's going to be a great mentor for you. He's going to keep that positive attitude. And everybody here in this field, keep jamming, keep getting after it for Major Moriarty. Once again, I'd like to thank our honored guests, my wife Summer, Vivian, and Cameron, my family here today. Thank you for helping us. You guys rock. You're an amazing family. Let's get this process going heading off to Fort Hood, Texas in the 36th Engineer Brigade. I can't wait to spend 2 years with an amazing engineer formation. Patriot team, Sergeant Major Frazier, Captain Bisson, commanders, color guard, everybody out there in the field. You look great today. Thanks for an amazing ceremony. Remember, peoples, process, and passion. Patriots. Put them in boots for victory. Patriots pride. This is Patriot 6 signing off.
Ladies and gentlemen, the commander of the New England Recruiting Battalion, Major Patrick Moriarty.
Good afternoon. Colonel Dente, Command Sergeant Major Porter, Mr. Cannon, Ms. Pennels, Mr. Burdett, Mr. Darbone, Colonel Retired Kerrigan, friends and families of the New England Recruiting Battalion. Thank you for attending this important occasion. Colonel Dente, thank you for selecting me for this opportunity to lead this battalion. It's an incredible unit that continues to excel and overcome adversity at every turn. Colonel Barbina, your guidance and leadership has turned our battalion into a high-performing organization that with the will and means to succeed. You and Summer have brought together the families and soldiers and ensured that all members of our team were supported through one of the more difficult times our nation has faced. We emerged stronger and more capable team, achieving excellence at every turn. To my wife Shamim, you're my rock and my heart. You are an amazing mother and the most perfect role model for our children. Your love and support makes our family strong. I know that there is nothing we can't overcome. I love you. Fellow officers, NCOs, it is a great honor and privilege to be your commander. The Patriot Battalion has momentum due to your hard work and dedication. I look forward to continuing to work with you over the next few months. All policies and procedures remain in effect. Patriots pride, for victory. This is Patriot 6 signing on.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the playing of the Army song. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the New England Recruiting Battalion Assumption of Command ceremony. You are invited to welcome Major Moriarty and his family directly behind the ceremony.